We have prepared a forecast of the profit and the cash flow for Intercity Assembly Company. Jerry is the owner-manager of that business. This forecast was based on the best information that Jerry had available at the time. Now he has some new information about what the future might hold for him, and he has dropped by to discuss it. Jerry, this is a picture of the future operations of your business.
John, this is a picture of the future profits of my business.
This is the number of units that you think you can ship each month.
That's the number of units I know I can ship over the next few months.
And you sell your units for $2 a piece.
Very competitive $2, I might add.
Well, that means that we can forecast your sales. Now, this is a list of your expenses. This is the money that you're going to have to spend in order to make those sales.
Well, you have to spend money to make money. Everybody in business knows that.
Well, now, if we take the total expense away from the total revenue, we can get the profit.
And it's more than $7,000 a month.
Yes, but Jerry, profit is not cash.
I know. And that's why we have to look at the company's checkbook. The receipts represent the checks that we get to deposit into the company's bank account.
And they come from the sales.
The disbursements represent the checks that we write out of the company's bank account. Most of those come from that list of expenses over there. Some of them, like materials, do not come from that list directly, though.
Oh, that's because you buy materials in fixed quantities, but you only use up what is needed in order to make those sales. And that's why we have to come over here to the side and find out how many you're going to have at the beginning of the month, and how many you're going to ship, and then how many you're going to bring in, and then when you write the check.
That allows us to get the total dispersed, and if we subtract the total dispersed from the total receipts, we can get the cash flow. And that allows us to calculate the future bank balances. But John, you know, I just have one question. You see all of that profit I'm making over there?
Yes.
Where is it? It's not down at the bank.
Well, Jerry, what do you think the problem is?
I think it has to do with when I get paid.
Well, you have to wait 2 months to get paid after you make the sale.
I know, in some months it won't even be that good. Why? I've been talking with the customers, and some of them inform me that they won't be able to pay until 3 months after the sale is made.
Well, we better look at that in more detail.
I think that we should.
Let's go over here to this board at the other end.
Okay, what are you going to do over there?
I'm going to look at your receipts from sales.
Okay, the receipts from the sales would be the checks that we receive from the customers, the amount that we get to deposit into the bank account, the receipts from the sales.
Receipts from sales. Now, you're telling me that some people are going to pay you 3 months later.
Well, it's a very disturbing fact, but I'm afraid that's exactly what's going to happen. Some of the people are going to pay us 3 months after the sale is made.
Do you have any idea what percentage will pay you 3 months later?
I'm concerned that it may move up to more than 50%, John.
You mean like 60, 70, 80%?
Pessimistically, perhaps as much as 70.
70%. Well, do you think any of them will pay you 2 months after you make the sale?
Yes, I'm certain that there will be a number that don't wait quite 3 months, and in fact pay us 2 months after the sale is made.
And what percentage do you think that might be?
2/3 of the difference.
2/3 of the difference. How much is that?
20%.
20%. Well, do you think that anybody will pay you 1 month after you make the sale?
Yes, there will be a small number that pay us according to the industry terms, net 30 days, and that's 1 month after the sale is made.
And what percentage might that be?
Probably 10%.
10%. Well, 10% are going to pay you 1 month later, and 20% will pay you 2 months later, and 70% will pay you 3 months later.
But John, you know, that's not the way we planned it up here on our original forecast.
No, in the original forecast, we were assuming that everybody paid you 2 months later.
And we made no allowance at all for individuals paying us 3 months after the sale was made or 1 month after the sale is made.
Well, that's going to change your forecast.
And to see exactly what that does to the company's operations, why, John, all we have to do is change a couple of numbers.
Change a couple of numbers?
Yes.
Well, that's the receipts from sales.
Correct.
Well, I can do that over here on the side, but I'm going to need a little help with the arithmetic.
Oh, well, let me work on that over here.
Let's see, the sales come from over here, but the receipts come from way over here.
Yes, the company checkbook.
Now, these first two numbers are deposits from sales made in months before month 1 of this forecast.
Transactions off a prior period.
Well, I can write them in just as they are. Month number 1, that's $74,000.
$74,000.
And month number 2, it was $77,000.
That's correct.
Now, let's see. The sales you make in month number 1, that's $80,000. And we're saying that 10% comes in 1 month later. 10% of $80,000, that's $8,000.
Yes.
And 2 months later, 20% comes in. That's twice this. That would be $16,000.
Right.
And 3 months later, it's 70% of $80,000. 7 eighths, 56. $56,000.
Works out to be $56,000.
And now, the sales in month number 2, the sales in month 2 are $84,000. $84,000 in month 2. 1 month later, we get 10% of $84,000, which would be $8,400. And 2 months later, we get 20%. Well, that's twice this. That would be $16,800.
That's correct.
And 70% of $84,000, you'll have to help me with that number.
It works out to be $58,800. That's a very substantial receipt.
Yeah, that looks promising, doesn't it? Now, the sales in month number 3, let's see, month 3, the sales are going to be $88,000. And we say 1 month later we get 10%, that would be $8,800. And 2 months later we're going to get 20%, that would be twice this, $17,600.
Yes, that's correct.
And then 70% of $88,000, you have to help me with that number.
$61,600.
$61,600.
That's correct.
All right, now, the sales in month number 4, and that's month 4. Sales in month 4 are $94,000, and 1 month later we get 10% of $94,000, that's $9,400.
Yes.
And 2 months later we get 20%, that's twice this. That would be $18,800.
That's correct.
And 3 months later we get 70% of $94,000. You have to help me with that number.
$65,800 is the way it works out.
$800. All right, now from the sales in month number 5, and month number 5, let's see, the sales are going to be $100,000.
Yes.
And 1 month later we get 10% of $100,000. Well, that's $10,000.
Okay.
And 2 months later we get 20% of $100,000. That's $20,000.
Right.
Now, let's see, the sales in month number 6, and that's month 6 over here.
Yes, from the income statement.
Sales in month 6 are $106,000. And 1 month later, we get 10% of $106,000. That's $10,600.
Correct.
All right. Now, if we add these up, we can get the total.
Okay, this would be the total receipts from the sales over the next few months.
Right. Now, let's see. I guess I can handle the first one here. That's $74,000.
That one's easy to add.
And actually, the second one, I think I can handle that. That's $85,000.
Okay.
And month number 3, you know, I'm going to have to change a lot of numbers.
Oh, no, John. All you have to do is just change a couple of numbers.
Just a couple of numbers. Here, help me to add these numbers here in month number 4.
$81,600.
$81,600. And you have to help me add the numbers in month 5.
The next total would be $85,800.
$85,800. And in month number 6?
It totals $90,400.
$90,400.
Yes.
And month number 7?
$96,400 is what the total works out to be.
400.
Very substantial receipts, I would say.
I would say so too. Now, that's the totals.
And that's going to change my checkbook.
That's going to change your deposits.
That's right.
And the deposit in month 1 is $74,000.
Yes.
And over here in the checkbook, well, that's $74,000. That one doesn't change.
That one doesn't change.
But over here in month 2, the revised deposit month 2 is $85,000. And over here in the checkbook, oh, that number is going to change.
That'll be a different number as far as the deposit in month number 2.
And then in month 3, 4, oh, look at this. All the other deposits change.
Yes. Once you get beyond month number 2, all of the deposits change. There'll be different numbers in month 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Every one of the numbers.
Yeah, we'll be putting different checks in the bank.
All that work I did. Here, the disbursements. Now, materials, oh, the checks that you write didn't change.
No, we're only talking about changing the receipts.
So the total dispersed is the same. The cash flow comes from subtracting total dispersed from total deposits. Oh, you've changed the cash flow in month number 2.
That's right. In month number 2, it looks like our cash flow will be a different number.
And in month number 3, you've changed the cash flow.
Well, the same will be true in month number 3, a different cash flow.
And in fact, month 4, all the other months have changed.
Well, if you revise the new deposits, then of course you're going to forecast new cash flows.
Well, now, the beginning balance comes from the month before, but the ending balance comes from adding the cash flow to the beginning balance. You've changed the ending balance in month number 2.
Well, it's just that one number, that ending balance there.
Yes, but that becomes the beginning balance in month number 3.
Oh, well, just a couple of numbers, all it changed.
Well, that changes the beginning balance, and you changed the ending balance in month number 3.
Well, if we change the beginning balance, we'll change the ending balance, certainly.
But that becomes the beginning balance.
Yes, beginning.
And you change the ending balance.
Ending.
Which becomes the beginning balance.
Beginning.
And you change the ending balance.
Ending.
Which becomes the beginning balance.
Yes.
You changed all the balances.
Just change a couple of numbers, John, that's all.
That's not just a couple of numbers, that's a lot of numbers.
No, that's just the balances down at the bank. They'll all be revised.
That's all of the balances down at the bank.
That's correct. The beginning balances through month number 7 as well as the ending balances.
Right, and the ending balance in month number 7 will change also.
John, you know all of those overdrafts I had?
Yes?
Well, you just covered my overdrafts.
Well, somebody has to.
Let's change the numbers.
All right, now let's see. In month number 2, the revised deposit is $85,000.
That's correct.
I'll write that in right up here.
That'll be a new deposit in month number 2.
$85,000.
Okay?
And then in month number 3, it's $24,000. Listen, why don't you read these off to me so I can write them in the checkbook?
Oh, I'll be glad to. The numbers we calculated, $24,400 in month number 3.
$24,400.
$81,600 the following month.
$81,600.
That's correct. Then $85,800 in month number 5.
$800.
$90,400 in month number 6.
$90,400.
And finally, in month number 7, $96,400.
$6,400. All right, now, you're going to have to help me with the arithmetic, because if we take the total dispersed away from the total deposits, we get the cash flow. Month number 2.
Well, it'll be a new cash flow in month 2, $3,900.
$3,900.
That's right.
And how about in month number 3?
$49,700 the following month.
$700.
The next month, $334.
$334.
The next month, it works out to be $26.50.
$26.50.
The following month, $400.
$400.
And then $66.07 in the last month.
$66.07.
Of course, there is some negative cash flow in there.
Oh, which one?
Months number 3, 4, 6, and 7.
3, 4, 6, and 7?
That's correct.
Oh, well, Some of them are positive.
Yes, some up, some down, sort of works out.
I see. Well, now, you see the beginning balance comes from the month before, but the ending balance comes from adding the cash flow. If you'll add the cash flow, the beginning balance in month number 2,
We get $6,300.
$6,300.
And there's only one small problem with that number.
That's an overdraft.
That's an overdraft, John.
And that becomes the beginning balance next month.
But it's not so bad.
$6,300 overdraft to start month number 3.
Yes.
Add the cash flow to the beginning balance.
We get $56,000, and John, that's an overdraft.
$56,000.
That's correct.
We start next month with a $56,000 overdraft.
Let's see, month number 4, we end up with $56,334, but that's an overdraft too.
That's an overdraft too. You're going
Yeah.
to start month number 5 with $56,334 overdraft.
The next month, $53,684 ending balance. That's an overdraft too.
Oh, but that's not as bad. Now, that's going to become the beginning balance next month, $53,684.
And in month number 6, the ending balance is $54,084.
Oh, 84.
But that's an overdraft too.
Yes, that's an overdraft. We start month 7, $54,084.
And we end up $60,691 overdraft down at the bank.
Jerry, you've got an overdraft.
John, my overdrafts are no longer covered.
We better have a look at your operating results.
Okay?
Listen, you see these profits here? Add those up for me for the 7 months.
Okay.
And I'm going to write your operating results over here.
Let's see. If you take the cumulative net profit after tax for the entire 7 months of our revised forecast over there, the total would be, let's see, $52,505, and that is the cumulative net profit after tax for the whole 7 months. $52,505 is the way that works out.
$52,505.
That's correct.
What was the cash balance over there in month number 7?
Well, if you look at the revised forecast, it's $60,691, and of course that was an overdraft.
An overdraft of $60,691.
That's correct, at the end of month number 7.
Now, that was for the case when 10% of the people pay you 1 month after the sale,
Yes.
and 20% pay you 2 months after the sale,
Yeah,
and 70% of the people pay you 3 months after the sale.
that's correct.
What was the cash balance in the original forecast?
Oh, well, to get that, I have to look under this card here, and it looks like $1,291, and of course that was an overdraft.
That was an overdraft.
Yes.
And how about the profit for the 7 months in the original forecast?
Well, the income statement hasn't changed.
Didn't change? Well, that must be the same number. $52,505.
Okay?
And that's for the case when everybody paid you 2 months later,
Yes.
and nobody paid you 1 month later, and nobody paid you 3 months later.
That's correct.
Jerry, what are you going to do about that overdraft?
Well, I can't handle that. I mean, it's one thing to come up with $1,200 down at the bank, but to come up with an additional $60,000, I simply cannot allow that to occur.
Well, what do you do about collecting money from your customers after you make the sale?
Nothing. I mean, once the sale is made, I talk about the next sale.
Well, you see what that will do to you.
I sure do. That's called out of business.
Do you think that you could get any of these people to pay you sooner?
Yes, if I talk to them.
Do you think you could get some of them to pay you 2 months later?
Sure, if I worked at it.
Could you get some of these people to pay you 1 month later?
Now, that would be aggressive and ambitious, but if I set my mind to it, of course I could.
And about what percentage do you think you could get to pay 1 month later?
Well, perhaps more than half.
You mean like 60%?
Optimistically, maybe 70.
70%. And, of course, some of them would still pay you 2 months later.
Sure, yeah.
What percentage would that be?
Perhaps 20%.
20%.
Yes.
And some of them would still pay you 3 months later.
No matter what you do, there's always going to be a small percentage that pay you very, very late.
And 70-20, that would have to be 10%. Well, Jerry, that's going to change your forecast again.
And to see what that would do to the company's performance, why, all we'd have to do is change a couple of numbers.
Change a couple of numbers?
Yes.
Well, that's the receipts from sales.
Correct.
Well, we can do it over here on the side, but you're going to have to help me with the arithmetic again.
Okay, well, let me go back over here.
All right, now the numbers in these first 2 months they're deposits from sales from months before month 1 of our forecast.
That's right, transactions of a prior period.
They don't change. But now the sales in month 1, are $80,000, but 1 month later we're going to get 70%. That means we don't get this number. We get 70% of 80,000. 7/8 is $56,000.
That's an awful lot of money coming in that month.
And then 2 months later we get 20%. Well, that didn't change. 3 months later we get 10% of 80,000. Well, we don't get this at all. We're going to get 10% of 80,000 is $8,000.
That's correct, in month number 4.
Now, that takes care of month 1. Now, the sales in month number 2, were $84,000, and 1 month later, we don't get this number at all. We're going to get 70% of $84,000. Help me with that number.
$58,800 is the way that works out.
$800. And then 2 months later, we get 20%. Well, that number didn't change. And 3 months later, we get 10%. Well, we don't get this at all. We're going to get 10% of $84,000. That's $8,400.
That's correct.
Now, that takes care of month number 2. Month number 3, the sales are $88,000, and 1 month later we're going to get 70% of $88,000. We don't get this number, but you're going to have to help me. What is 70%?
$61,600 is the way that
$600
works out, yes.
And 2 months later we're going to get 20%. Well, that number didn't change. And 3 months later, oh, we don't get this number at all. We're going to get 10% of $88,000. That'd be $8,800.
That's correct. In month number 6, $8,800 will come in.
All right. Now, that takes care of month 3. Now, the sales in month number 4, are $94,000. And 1 month later, we get 70%. We don't get this number at all. What is 70% of $94,000?
$65,800 is what I get, John.
800. And 2 months later, we get 20%. Well, that number didn't change. And 3 months later, we don't get this number at all. We're going to get 10% of $94,000. That's $9,400.
That's correct.
All right, now, that takes care of month number 4. And month number 5, the sales in month number 5 are $100,000. And 1 month later, we get 70%. We don't get this number at all. We're going to get 70% of $100,000. That's $70,000.
That number was easy to multiply.
And 2 months later, we get 20%. Well, that number didn't change. Now, that takes care of month number 5. The sales in month number 6 was $106,000. 1 month later, we're going to get 70%. You'll have to help me with that number.
$74,200 is the way that works out.
$74,200. Well, that's going to change all the totals.
Yeah, just change a couple numbers there, John.
Well, at least 7. If you'll help me with the arithmetic now, maybe we can get the new totals. Here.
Okay.
Well, month 1 I can handle. That's $74,000.
Okay, that one's easy to add.
And how about month 2?
$133,000.
133.
That's correct.
And month number 3?
$74,800.
74,800.
$86,400 the following month.
86,400.
$91,800 in month 5.
91,400.
800.
800.
That's correct.
And next month?
97,600 the following month.
97,600.
That's correct.
97,600.
And in month number 7, more than $100,000. 103,600.
600.
That's correct.
All right. Now, That's all the new totals.
And that will change the amount I get to deposit down at the bank.
Yes, in month number 1, the new deposit is $74,000.
Yes.
And over here in your checkbook, well, in month number 1, that's $74,000. That didn't change.
It didn't change.
But in month number 2 of this revised forecast, it's $133,000. And in your checkbook, oh, that number is going to change.
Well, it'll certainly make a difference in month number 2.
And in month number 3, the deposit in month number 3, that's changed. In fact, all of those deposits have changed.
They certainly will.
That means I'm going to have to change a lot of numbers.
Okay, and I might just note there that in month number 4, month 5, 6, 7, why, all of the receipts will be different.
Let's hope they'll be better. Now, let's see. The disbursements, the checks that you write, well, they didn't change.
Only the receipts changed.
And the cash flow comes from subtracting total disbursed from total deposits.
That's right.
Month number 2, you've changed the cash flow.
Looks like the cash flow is going to be different in that month.
In month number 2, and you changed the cash flow in month number 3.
Month number 3 will be different also.
And in fact, you changed it in all the months.
Well, if you change the receipts in months 4, 5, 6, and 7, then you'll change the cash flow in those same months.
Well, now, the beginning balance comes from the months before.
Yes.
But the ending balance comes from adding the cash flow to the beginning balance. In month number 2, you've changed the ending balance.
Well, just that one ending balance.
Well, yes, but that becomes the beginning balance next month.
Okay. The beginning balance, month number 3. Oh, that's just a couple of numbers.
Yeah, but you know, that changes the ending balance in month number 3.
Oh, well, just one more
And
balance.
that becomes the beginning balance next month.
Yes.
And you change the ending balance, which becomes the beginning balance.
Yes.
You change the ending balance.
Well, just changed a couple numbers.
You've changed all the balances.
No, just changed a couple boards there.
Just a couple of boards, that's right. You've just wiped out all my balances.
Well, that'll change the rest of the beginning balances and even the ending balance in month 7.
Oh, even in month 7, we're going to have to change that one.
That's correct.
All right, now, I'm going to have to write in a lot of new numbers.
And I can't wait to see what the new balances will be.
Well, let's see. The deposit in month number 2, in month number 2, that will be $133,000.
Yes.
I can put that number in up here.
Okay, $133,000 in month number 2.
That's such a big number.
Well, it's an attractive new deposit
Now,
there.
let's see. In month number 3, the number is 70. Oh, listen, why don't you read these off to me so I can put them up in the checkbook?
Okay. In month number 3, the new deposit will be $74,800.
$74,800.
$86,400 the next month.
$86,400.
$91,800.
$800.
The next month, $97,600.
$600.
And finally, more than $100,000, $103,600.
$600.
That's correct.
All right. Now, the next number we have to change is the cash flow, but you'll have to help me with the arithmetic.
Okay.
Subtract the total dispersed from the total deposits. Month number 2.
$51,900 is the new cash flow in month 2.
900. Month number 3.
$700.
$700.
That's correct.
Month number 4.
$44.66 is the new cash flow.
$44.66. Month number 5.
$86.50.
$86.50.
That's correct.
And how about month number 6?
$6,800.
$6,800.
And finally, $593.
$593. Now, are any of those negative?
All of those are strong positive cash flows.
They're all positive. Well,
Yes.
Now, the beginning balance comes from the month before, but the ending balance comes from adding the cash flow to the beginning balance. You're going to have to help me with the arithmetic here. Month number 2, add the cash flow to the beginning balance.
$41,700, and that's cash in the bank.
Cash in the bank. That means we start next month with $41,700.
And we end up with $42,400 cash money in the bank.
400. Now, That becomes the beginning balance next month, $42,400, and you add the cash flow to the beginning balance.
$46,866, and that is cash in the bank.
And we start next month with $46,866, and we add the cash flow to the beginning balance.
We get $55,516 cash in the bank.
Start next month with $55,516 and add the cash flow to the beginning balance.
$62,316 in the bank.
Oh, and we start month 7 with $62,316 and add the cash flow to the beginning balance.
We end up with $62,909 cash in the bank.
Jerry, you've got money in the bank.
How's that going to affect our operating results?
Well, let's go over here to the other end and have a look at your operating results.
Okay.
What was that balance over there in month number 7?
Well, according to our revised forecast, in month number 7, $62,909 was the ending cash balance at the end of month 7.
And what happened to the profit for that 7 months?
Well, the income statement didn't change.
Well, the number is the same, $52,505. Now, that's the case where 70% of your customers paid you 1 month later, 20% of your customers paid you 2 months later, and 10% of your customers paid you 3 months later.
Yes.
That's a different result.
It certainly is. I go all the way from disastrous overdrafts down at the bank to very attractive 5-figure balances.
And what happened to the profit?
It didn't change.
It didn't change. Imagine the manager who only gets an income statement.
It's not enough just to get paid. It's absolutely crucial when you get paid. For example, if I get paid later, disaster down at the bank.
But if you get paid sooner, comfortable balances down at the bank.
Now that is important enough that I can't turn that responsibility over to anyone. I'm just going to have to talk to the customers myself.
Jerry, you talking to the customers yourself is the way to bring the money in sooner.
And I can't just talk to them about making more sales.
No. You see these sales up here, Jerry?
Yes.
These are promises to pay you. The promises are fulfilled when you make the deposit down at the bank.
Timing is everything.
And you see these profits down here?
Yes.
These are based on promises.
Do you mean to tell me that I could be making an awful lot of profit and still go broke?
It happens all the time.
Could that really happen?
That's business.